All right, what's up, everyone? This is the Awesemo.com NHL Hit the Ice show. We got a six-game slate to talk about. I am here with Nolan Kelly. For the first time, he's joining us. He is our injury and line change expert. Nolan,
What's
how are you
happening?
doing?
I'm doing terribly actually because I had probably the worst beat of my life last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm not one to complain about beats. You know, they come, you get bad beats, you get good beats.
For sure.
Uh, about 15 minutes before lock yesterday, one of the Islanders beat writers tweeted that Anthony Beauvillier was moving down to the third
Mm-hmm.
line. I was flush with Beauvillier lineups, like just everywhere. I had him like
Oh, God.
50%, and I switched him out in every single one, and he had a hat trick. So it wasn't a fun night, but we're back at it, and I've recovered.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's always stories like that, where all of a sudden, like, I think more in football, where it's more kind of a feel game, where some beat writers like, oh, he's due for a big workload or whatever, but I mean, that seems pretty easy to not mess up, right? As a beat writer, I mean,
Yeah.
you have experience doing like following the team and stuff. How often would you say that happens?
Oh, like he was right. It was Kunakle got moved up to the second line with Eberle and Nelson. It's just that like Bovia had the hat trick on the third line with Komarov. Uh,
Did he
but
really?
I would say,
I thought he was
yeah,
on line two. So I didn't have any of the second line. That was the Brock Nelson line, but I saw
yeah.
like Osmo and Tom, the guys that are like the creators of the site. They had Beauvillier with their Brock Nelson lineups.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Like it was just a very late last minute change. So I don't know. I'll just take a look on shift chart and make sure I'm not like losing my mind here.
no,
But
I mean I
I
think you might be right. I just assumed they were together, but I wasn't on the
yeah.
line at all, so I
Oh yeah, I
wasn't paying
saw
attention.
saw Tom's lineups at the top there with
Yeah,
Bouvier. I
yeah.
was choked.
It's
Yeah.
um
What are you
yeah
gonna do?
that's really frustrating.
Yeah, Kunakle.
Makes you feel better if you only did that in two of your 50. Jeez, your hit happened
Right?
10 minutes
Right?
before the game. Oh, that
But
is
nobody wants to hear my terrible sob stories.
no. I think people like to hear that, honestly, especially if you're playing GPPs all the time. You're gonna catch some of those beats, so it's nice to hear that it's not just you who has the beats, right?
Right?
Like I know I haven't had any terrible ones yet. I've actually probably been really lucky. Like I've been on the good side of variance so far this year. Um, but I know there's some bad ones coming my way, I'm sure. Hopefully not tonight though, because I am playing in the qualifying tournament tonight for
Oh, nice.
the Washington D.C. trip. So I got two lineups in there, and hoping I could be on the right side of variance one more time tonight. Um, any anything we should mention off the top of the show? So Nolan writes the article that I always refer you guys to. I post in chat all the time. This article right here, the NHL lineup changes, very valuable information. Anything that we should mention off the top, Nolan?
Well, yeah, so I think like the most important stuff tonight, obviously, let me just pull up my article here and make sure I don't miss anything. So the big news, obviously, out of Washington is that Kuznetsov and Oshie are out, and Lars Eller is playing with Tom Wilson. That's a little bit intriguing. I don't know what your thoughts are on what that does to Winnipeg. One, whether that makes them a slightly worse play in terms of a matchup, because obviously that Washington one line has been hemorrhaging chances.
Yeah. Um,
Um, we can get into that later. And then Patrick Laine is up to Winnipeg 2 with Little and Connor, so that's a bit of you can give him a little bit of an uptick. He was on the third line last game. Rasmus Dahlin is on Buffalo's power play 1, replacing Rasmus Ristolainen. Hard to keep all those Ristolainen or Rasmuses
Yeah.
straight these days. And then the other kind of sneaky play that I sort of like tonight that people aren't talking about too much is just that Bruins decor is really depleted with injury. Chara's out, McAvoy's out, Carlo's out, Miller might be out, and so they're probably starting 2 rookies tonight on the road in Dallas, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be on that game, so that could kind of be like you might have to boost Dallas one because of that. But
for sure. Yeah.
that's the major stuff tonight.
No, that's
Nothing crazy, but some stuff to know for sure.
yeah, that's good stuff. I think as far as like ownership goes for the 6 game slate, first of all, I'm really pumped that we have a 6 game slate on a Friday. It's
Yeah,
nice
that's
when
awesome.
they balance the schedule a little bit. It's not going to be like this at all next week. We've got Monday. We have a let's see, it's like a 13 game slate, I think. Then 1 game Tuesday, and then 15 or 14 on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So
Nothing on Thanksgiving, right?
nothing on Thanksgiving, and then Friday, I think again it's just like a stacked slate where like everyone plays, but there are day games too. So
Yeah, nice.
that's always nice. You get a couple slates in there, if you can avoid the family for a few hours.
Right?
Chris Summerman. Yeah, I saw that. I'm assuming it was you that qualified. I was looking at who had qualified already. So, yeah, hope to see you there. That would be pretty cool. Didn't know you watched the show, but congrats on your qualifying win. I think you won maybe the first ticket now that I look at it. But, yeah, awesome. Props to you, man. Colorado 1, I think, is the one spot now with all those injuries on Washington. You mentioned no Kuznetsov, no Oshie. I think just in people's minds, that's going to, give a boost to Colorado 1. They're already a popular team to play at home. They're pretty price restrictive. There are only a few solid options I think you can fit with them. Just playing around with it on Fantasy Cruncher and trying to hand build some stuff. So you might have to get a little bit creative if you are playing Colorado 1. But other than that, I think for a 6-gamer, not a huge slate, but we're going to get pretty spread out ownership because some of these top lines are really expensive where you can't fit them both in. So you kind of have to pick and choose here. So like Boston 1, Dallas 1, Winnipeg 1, even like Buffalo 1 I'd throw in there, Taves and Kane together. So it's a pretty good slate as far as just having quality top lines here.
Agreed.
All right. So we got the Osmo lineup builder on the screen right now. We're going to go through each of the 6 games. As always, feel free to pop in chat and ask questions, give comments, talk about ownership, whatever you guys want. We want to make this as interactive as possible, as always. So let's start with Boston and Dallas. We've got Yaroslav Halak going up against Ben Bishop. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's Tuukka Rask.
Rask, right?
It's Rask. Yeah, we don't have it confirmed right now. I'm going to give this a quick refresh, but
I think it's confirmed that it's Rask.
Yeah, I know. We just didn't have it on the lineup builder just yet. So I was saying it, but I did actually know that it was Rask. So let me pull up DraftKings pricing. Are you a primarily DraftKings player?
Actually, I've gone over to FanDuel lately, so I'm kind of like 50-50 right now.
Okay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, feel free to talk about pricing on either side.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so you mentioned kind of the big news. You want to just reiterate the Boston, what's going on with them?
Yeah, so Boston's defense is a little bit weakened right now with 4 of their core players out. They basically just have Krug. I think most of their core has played like less than 150 NHL games or something. So that could be an advantage for Dallas 1. Dallas 2, 3, and 4. Their Jim Montgomery's been shuffling lines lately, so I don't really have any interest in those plays. I don't know what you think. Maybe the second line, the Spezza line, but generally, if I'm going to Dallas, I'm going to Dallas 1 and maybe stacking them with Heiskanen.
Yeah, Dallas 1 for me. They're actually projecting really well for me, and it's got a lot to do, I think, with the bad PK on Boston's side, the good power play on Dallas' side, and then Sagan, Ben, and Radulov just play a bunch of minutes together. They're one of the best lines when those 3 are a trio. They stick together on the power play. Just everything you look for from a correlation standpoint. They're at home. They can avoid Boston 1 here, which I expect them to do for the most part. But yeah, it's. I think
their ownership probably won't be too bad. I think like people do obviously get scared off by seeing those red numbers on DraftKings anyway. So we've got Boston giving up the 9th least points to centers, 8th least to right wingers, and they're first in the NHL against left wingers. So with so many kind of intriguing options, I think normally you'd see like Dallas 1 owned in like the 20%. You might get them a little bit lower tonight, maybe like 15%.
Yeah. I think as you go up in stakes, Dallas 1 will be higher, so they'll be considered like the sharp play or whatever.
Agreed.
But in like $8 tournament, I don't think they're going to be above like 15, 16%, something like that. You don't think they're going to be sneaky, Corsi? I mean, you probably have a better grasp on ownership than me, but yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be sneaky, but they're not going to be like the mega chalk. Like I think Colorado 1 has the potential to be.
Yeah. Colorado 1, Winnipeg 1.
Mm-hmm. Boston 1, are you looking at them at all? They're projecting well for me from a raw points standpoint, but just as a value, I don't really love them.
I think like as a pivot in GPPs, I think probably they're also going to be under-owned would be my guess, just because they're on the road and they're expensive, and Colorado 1's right there, the exact same price for that line on DraftKings, and they are the most expensive line on FanDuel. So not getting a great bargain rating on FanDuel from Osmo. So I wouldn't, Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting them in a couple lineups if you've got some nice low-owned stacks to go with them.
Yep. If you can find, I mean, Boston one pretty much always in play. I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna be maybe at the field, probably lower than the field on Boston one in large stakes tournaments. As far as defensemen, we've got some value opening up on the Boston side with all these injuries. I don't really know what to do outside of Krug. I mean, Grzelcyk's going to get a minutes bump, I would think, for 3,600. He would probably be my second option. And then on the Dallas side, it's really Heiskanen for me. If you want to, I think Roman Polak at 2,600 isn't terrible in that he's going to see 20.
Wow.
He's going to see 20 minutes. We'll block some shots. He's a floor play. It's just as a punt. So I was playing around with him as kind of my last guy in a couple lineups that I was building earlier today. So I just wanted to get that out. What do you see about defensemen here?
What's Julius Honka at 37?
37.
Oh, that's too much. That's too much. Yeah, I agree 100% with your takes. Krug could see a ton of minutes tonight for sure. So, and he's probably not going to get that much ownership. Lindell's probably not a bad play as well, but definitely going Heiskanen for sure.
Yeah, Polak isn't terrible as a standalone statement. Yeah, for DFS tonight at 2,600. That's all I meant by that.
Yeah.
All right, goalies here. I don't have Rask's price in front of me. Actually, let me see if I can pull it up really quick.
It's 7,400 on DK.
74?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't really love either goalie here. Like Bishop, I think is fairly priced, and Halak, I really like Dallas one here, and the PK is really bad for them, so it could be a lot of high danger chances when Boston one is not on the ice. So, oh yeah, is that ref? Does anybody know off the top of their head in chat that was watching the last couple of days with Homer Cleese? Is that ref anywhere tonight, or is he not on the slate? There's just one ref that's calling like 8 or 9 penalties per game, and Homer Cleese mentioned it on the show yesterday. Yeah. He had like 7 in the first period, the Tampa game, the
really?
Point hat trick. Yeah, so he assisted on all 3 goals in the point hat trick there. Furman, okay, he's not reffing tonight. All right,
he's not. Okay.
No. All right.
That's amazing.
Good to know. But yeah, it was just funny that there's 7 power plays in the first period of that game. You ready to move on to the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. Buffalo and Winnipeg, we have, looks like Carter Hutton going up against Laurent Brossoit. He is 8,200, Hutton 7,200. Any big news we need to mention off the top here, Nolan?
Just for the Jets, with stacking their second line again with Little and Line A, and Ehlers is going on the first line as he has been for the last few games. Another interesting tidbit here is that ice time wise, their defense, if you're going for stacking defense here, Buffalo has been getting a lot less ice time with Winnipeg 1, and it's actually been Morrissey and Trouba who had like 7 more minutes of ice time last game. So something to keep your eye on. Obviously, it's never a bad idea to stack a power play, but you might want to think about maybe mixing it up for GPPs and getting one of those other 2 in there if you're for just some correlation.
Yeah, that's pretty valuable information there. I like the numbers that I have when I plug them into Fantasy Cruncher and stuff, and I try to do full even strength stacks. I'm not getting a lot of Winnipeg 1. I think that's just a product of me having other lines that are, a couple $100 cheaper in total at a couple percentage points better than them. I think this is a fine spot for them, and I've actually seen they're kind of not having Scheifele go up against the top line. And if they're going to get Middlestat and Berglund at even strength, I think the Scheifele line is in a really, really good spot. Buffalo not that scary. The top line isn't even that scary, but definitely not the second, third, and fourth lines for Buffalo here. What do you think about Winnipeg? What do you think about Buffalo from a DFS perspective here?
I think I'll probably obviously Buffalo's contrarian play. I think they're implied for they're implied for a slate low 2.5 goals. Brossoit has the highest grade from Osimo today, so he's just kind of if you need a plug and play goalie or for cash games, I would go with him. And yeah, if you want to that's the thing with GPPs, right? You never know. Like Buffalo's probably on the face of it a bad play, but in a GPP they're probably going to be under what I would say under 5% owned, the top line, maybe somewhere in there, 5
Yeah,
to 7.
I think at lower stakes they could get definitely below 10. And if they're at 5, that's something I'm interested in as far as being overweight on Buffalo 1. Winnipeg's power play is fine. They don't commit a ton of penalties, but I think it's just a really well-constructed line with Skinner, Eichel, and Reinhart all on the top power play too. So if you do get a couple power play opportunities, you could certainly get there in tournaments, and they're not as expensive as some of these other top lines, with Reinhart being only 4,700. You mentioned, is it Dahlin? Dahlin on the top power play, Ristolainen moved to the second, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So he's a good bargain. I think he is 41. I'm just writing him up actually right now for my article.
He's 34 on DK.
34?
Looks like
that's
it.
cheap. Yeah. So between him and Montour and Heiskanen, you've got some nice cheap options there. But he's obviously viable. He hasn't seen a huge uptick in minutes, but he's getting a solid like 22, 23 minutes a game and power play one time. But obviously, like, Buffalo is not in the best spot. They are the Winnipeg are the biggest favorites on the slate. So full contrarian play for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to stay away from Brossoit, I think, a little bit as far as like a standalone goalie. Just because I don't know if he's gonna see the volume at 8,200 to be worth it. Outside of something like a shutout happening, I think he's gonna have a tough time being the highest raw point scoring goalie. So,
fair point.
Anything on the depth lines here? You like the little Connor line that's reunited?
You know, like on a semi small slate like this, Winnipeg 3 is never the worst option. I've certainly seen Winnipeg 3 take down some GPPs before. So that's Lowry, Tanev, and Kopp. Perreault has actually moved down to the fourth line. Usually it's like Lowry and Perreault that are together when they tend to go off. But that Lowry Tanev combo, anyways, has gotten a fair amount of ice time this year, especially. So I think like it's viable if you need something low priced and you just kind of want something that's not going to be owned at all as well.
Yeah, they definitely have good possession numbers. I think going back to last year even. So I don't think that's the worst play if you are going to a super expensive line, or even if you want to take 2 of the 3 of them and spend up elsewhere if you have the extra cash on DraftKings. Let's see. I don't really have anything else on this one.
One more, I think, just as a one-off as well. I just noticed that on the Buffalo power play, Patrick Berglund is on power play 1 as well. So it's kind of an intriguing, option. I'm sure he's super cheap on both sites.
Yep.
And
let's see,
he's 2,800. Yeah. Okay. So if you need to put in a one-off flyer,
for sure,
not a big deal.
Winnipeg 1 more owned than Winnipeg 2? ? I would say yes. Much more owned. Yep. Probably on both sides. I haven't really played around with FanDuel builds tonight, but
what do you think? I'm thinking like Winnipeg second most owned line of the night, or
that was my initial read. I think top 3 for sure. Unless I'm just completely off here, I think they're going to be pretty easily in the top 3.
Yeah, I agree.
Laine doesn't do shit 5-on-5, so heads up on that. He's
been terrible this year, right? Or just not convert.
I just thought I think it's a unlucky thing, whatever. But they put him back with his old guys. He should be fine.
His shooting percentage was terrible there for a while, and then he had that breakout game. So I'm sure he's probably due for some positive regression.
I would think so too. LA Kings and the Chicago Blackhawks. We have, I think it's going to be Cal Peterson going up against Corey Crawford. Have you heard anything more on Budaj? He was sick?
Yeah, I heard he's likely out tonight.
Okay.
So that's all I know.
So
Cal Peterson. So he's 903 save percentage in 51 AHL games. It's not very inspiring. This is a pretty good spot for any of the top 3 Blackhawks lines. I don't know and also the Kings lines too, because they're just so cheap. I don't know. What are your numbers saying?
Yeah, I like Carter, Kovalchuk, Toffoli. Just those guys all create a decent amount of chances. They haven't been great together at even strength, which is a little bit concerning for me. But I definitely want a piece of them just because they're so cheap and they fit with lines like Colorado 1, Winnipeg 1, Dallas 1 if you're going there as well. So I will have a decent amount of LA 2 despite the the numbers when you use the line tool on Natural Stat Trick or Corsica, they're not going to be eye popping. So
Yeah.
that's the main line I'm going to here. With this
Chicago
goal,
3, if you need a little.
Anisimov and Saad.
Yeah.
They're
Some
super
cheap.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Maybe I kind of poo-pooed that off the top, but I mean, Saad, anytime he's 4K, is he really not going to play in a power play?
Yeah, he's not on either power play right now.
That kind of takes away the appeal a little bit for me.
Do you what are your thoughts on ownership for this one? Do you think because I kind of think like people are gonna see the Kings record, the fact that they're starting AHL goaltender, and they're probably gonna put in. I'm kind of figuring that Chicago 1's gonna be maybe the third most owned line tonight.
Yeah, I think they could be top 3 or 4 here. I mean, they're at home. They're against a not very good team. They are against a unknown goalie. I mean, he may be good. He may be absolutely awful. Just an emergency guy. So I don't know much about Cal Peterson. But then you see Taves and Kane together. That's always appealing for people. And they're pretty affordable as well. So, yeah, kind of talking through it, I think that they're going to be, over double digits for sure. Maybe creep up to 15, 16, 17% in large field stuff just because they're going to be spit out in optimizers just because it's Kane and Taves together and they're affordable. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Especially like DraftKings is Taves is much cheaper, right? He's $5,600.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Kopitar's $4,900. But that I really try to stay away from that line for the most part. I don't know what it is.
I don't think I've ever seen him that low. That's crazy.
I mean,
what about line matching? Would they? I guess like I don't really have much of a read on this new Blackhawks. So Jeremy Colleton. Has he been? Do you know if he's been line matching so far this in his early tenure or?
So they played I think one home game together, and they matched against the Ryan O'Reilly line. It wasn't a super hard match where you saw like 10+ minutes against them or anything. But what Corsi says in the chat, Taves versus Kopi, I would guess. That was my read as well. Like when you think about it logically, like why would you want to match up Taves and Kane together against
when you've got last chain
LA's shutdown line, right? But then again, like we're dealing with NHL coaches, and it's like to get in their mind is it's already hard enough. You've got a new coach. It's a 1-game sample. But yeah, I would think it's pretty safe that Taves and Kane go up against the top 6 here. But it does make a big difference. Like if we knew that they were going to go up against the Carter Toffoli Kovalchuk line, that would make a little bit of a difference for me.
Agreed. So you're going to pop in some LA2 tonight, and what do you think about those Chicago defensemen? Seabrook's obviously been lighting the lamp a little bit lately, and Jogi Harju is very cheap.
Yeah,
still 700. He hasn't had a shot in like 3 games or something, 2 games, but still getting the ice time.
Yeah, I did see that. I looked at his last game. He attempted 5 shots, so he just hasn't been getting them on net. I think there's some variance in that for the most part. I mean, I'm not worried about it. He's under 4K, so I do like Yoki there quite a bit as a very good value tonight. There's quite a few value defensemen at all price levels, it seems like. So is he your preference too, or you kind of like Seabrook or Gustafson?
I think, I think for the savings, I would go with him. It just kind of depends on lineup construction. There are, I think there are 3 defensemen under 4K that I kind of like tonight that are, I think we're under 4.5 on FanDuel as well. So he's one of them though. I think he's in play for sure.
Okay. And then the Kings side here, any Drew Doughty, Martinez, Muzzin, I guess is how.
Martinez and Muzzin I don't know, the price keeps dropping. I don't know what to do with them. They're like, I always like to, they're the kind of players that I like to kind of sneak into a lineup when I've got something that I like and I can get a defenseman under 4K right now, just because they kind of they're on the power play too, and they just sort of have some of that upside, but they certainly haven't been producing this year. And then, so I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Kings. I'm not a huge fan of what they've been doing this year, and for obvious reasons, their record is terrible, but they just seem like slow, and they seem like they should have rebuilt like 3 years ago. And I don't know. This just feels like it's not their year overall, but obviously it's just one game. But
got to get this win says they're just slow and bad. So I think you would agree with that. All right, speaking of punt defensemen like Forbort, If you're looking for a guy that's going to play 20 plus minutes, he's with Doughty. Do with that what you will, just along the Roman Polak line. Don't just like fire him up. But if you need 2,600 and he's all you have left, I don't think he's the worst option in the world. And then with Muzzin Martinez, what I kind of do is just play the cheaper one. But that was more last season when they were both playing the second power play seemingly every single game. So, Martinez's price is baked into the fact that he gets the second power play time. So I think they're both fairly priced for what they've done. And like their shot attempts, neither of them look very great either. So, all right, are you taking a stab at this Cal Peterson guy or Crawford here? Is he kind of more of a cash option for you?
Yeah, I think Crawford's probably a pretty good cash play. I don't mind taking Peterson in GPPs. Like one of my favorite things to do is just take the goaltender facing one of the highest owned stacks of the day, and that just sort of doubles the advantage, I think, if that goalie plays well. So I don't hate it, but it wouldn't be like a focal point of a bunch of lineups or anything for sure. LA's I think the second. Chicago's the second biggest favorites of the slate, but it's not huge.
Right. Yeah. I think I would agree with you. I'll have sprinkles of this Calvin Peterson guy, and then Crawford just like, I don't know. He's just whatever. I don't think he's going to see a ton of shot volume. I think this is actually a pretty winnable game for the Kings. I don't think the Hawks are very good, and I don't think it's a good idea to have Taves and Kane together, especially if you're going to match against Kopitar. Their depth is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Peterson's okay. I'm kind of lower on Crawford than most people, I think. Ready to move it on?
Let's do it.
All right. Capitals and the Colorado Avalanche, or at least some of the Capitals, right?
It's like half the team.
Yeah, exactly. It's Copley going for Washington. Is that what you have as well?
Yes.
Grubauer?
Yes, I think they even called Samsonov up as well, so I'm pretty sure that would mean Holtby's out. But I thought I saw something too that said he might play, but maybe I'm out to lunch on that one. Yeah, it's Copley.
Copley
confirmed.
So, yeah, I mean, talk about the Caps injuries. You've researched.
Yeah, so we have looks like Lars Eller's going to skate with Wilson and Ovechkin. So that's an interesting combination because obviously Wilson and Eller are pretty cheap. I always love going with Eller just when he's like on his own as a third line sort of pivot tournaments because he occasionally just like pops a goal or two. So that'll be interesting. I don't know how they'll play together. I mean, obviously Eller is a fairly talented guy. And then Eller and Wilson are both on that power play one as well. And then Burakovsky moves up to the second line with Backstrom and Verana. So I don't know. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Like, obviously, Backstrom's probably the best defensive center that they have on the Capitals, but with Kuznetsov out, is that an upgrade for Winnipeg one? What do you like? What's your take on it
for Colorado one? You mean?
Colorado.
I mean, I don't know. It's definitely not like a downgrade for them. I wouldn't think. So if I was going to be on Colorado one when I thought it was going to be Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Wilson, then I'm certainly not getting off of them because Lars Eller is up there. I don't know if there's any data with Eller, Ovechkin, and Wilson together, even going back to last season. I don't remember a time when they were together. And then it's kind of same thing with Backstrom. Is Burakovsky with Verana?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head if we've got numbers for them. So yeah, it's really just about Colorado one here for me. Ovechkin is always in play as a one-off, so let's just get that out of the way. He's 7,100, affordable. Yep. I think it's a perfectly fine spot to play him at somewhat low ownership, or if you want to play him with Lars Eller. No,
I saw a reported earlier. I don't know if anyone out there knows. I saw it reported earlier that Wilson was going to be on the power play one, but now I'm seeing that it's Connolly, so I don't know.
Where are you seeing that it's Connolly on Daily Faceoff?
Yeah, Daily Faceoff. Is that just old?
It could be. I mean, I would more lean towards the beat writers. I think we talk about it a little bit. DFO is great, but they also guess sometimes. And
I thought I saw beat writers say it was Wilson.
I did. I think as well. Let me try to find that actually, just so we're not. Let's see. Let's see. Tom Wilson.
What's the name of that Capital beat writer? It's nothing like some good old dead air for
Right.
Isabella. How do you say her name? Isabella Kershujin.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can.
It appears that Tom Wilson is taking Oshie's place in the top power play. Lars Eller is in Kuznetsov's spot.
And, yep, she's a confirmed beat writer, right? So
there you go. That's an advantage too. Like you never know. Maybe people tend to like use daily faceoff, I think, a lot just as sort of a default. So you can kind of use that to your advantage sometimes.
And I think Fantasy Cruncher does scrape from there too. So if you use that, just be aware if you're trying to do a power play stack. All the Wilson, I don't know, does that make a huge difference for you for Wilson? I mean, it's obviously a bump for him, but I don't just want to like fire him up. I don't think he's that great of a DFS play.
He feels like I'm just wondering what kind of role he'll take on that power play. It seems like he'll be like a bit of a net presence. Mm-hmm. So like it's possible that you get a pop in a little garbage goal there, but
could be, yeah. I mean, Backstrom and Oshie out for sure does hurt the Caps power play. I think that's pretty fair to say. Not like they're going to be worse in the league or whatever if they're without these two guys for an extended period of time. You still have Ovechkin there and capable guys on the power play, but maybe just not as big of a lock before. And these guys haven't really practiced together or had game time together on the power play with Eller and Wilson. So just keep that in mind. Could take some getting used to each other at 5-on-4. Defenseman here. On the Capital side, and then we can kind of talk a little bit more about Colorado 1. It's Carlson. For me, Orlov looks to be breaking out a little bit. He's at 4K, getting power play 2-time and playing with Carlson and even strength. So those two would be my main targets for the Caps. What about you?
Yep, I would agree with that. Obviously, Niskanen's always a little bit in play too. He's on the power play, second power play. They're just always, Orlov and Niskanen are just always like around those 4K one-offs. Are going to be 3% owned. They may, they might give you a goal. They might not. So I actually probably won't have too much of them tonight. I think I just prefer going to some of these other low-priced defensemen that are getting a little bit more opportunity, but they're certainly not bad plays by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure. And then, well, first of all, are you looking at any other lines on Colorado besides the top one?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I was just looking. I don't think Colorado 2 is probably the only. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that because Soderberg always seems to pop in models, right?
Does. Yeah.
So we got Colin Wilson on the power play 1. Yeah. I guess it's kind of an interesting option. Like if you want to stack Colorado 2 or something, or Colorado 3 with another high price line, I don't think that's the worst idea. They have a high implied total, but Colorado 1, I've been trying to fade them a little bit lately, and it just has not been going well. They had a 37% 5-on-5 ice time clip last game, which is I think that's the highest I've seen all season. So it's a little bit difficult when you're getting that much ice time and that much opportunity. I think Bednar just wants to ride them for a while, and so I don't know what to do here. I'd love to fade them, but man, it's hard. They're definitely due for some regression, but
yeah, it's just kind of annoying too that the Caps have all these injuries now. Just kind of opens the door for them to be chalkier than they would have been, I think.
One other note as well, just looking at their last game on shift chart, the Barry actually got a lot less ice time with them. Samuel Girard and Eric Johnson got way more ice time in the first line. That's just obviously one game, so it could just be a small sample size, but something to keep in mind as well if you want a little contrarian stack there with a defenseman. I think they got 6 or 7 more minutes last game, so
yeah, I don't mind that at all. Barry just hasn't been the same guy this year. It seems like he's not.
Yeah, he was removed from the power play for a few games last week, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, I think Johnson. I do prefer Johnson over Girard just as a standalone play. I think there's a better floor and maybe even a better ceiling. Girard doesn't really shoot it all that much.
Yeah,
he's more of an assist equity. Yeah. So at Colorado 1, I think just a fantastic play. Ownership, I think they're going to be a line that sees over 20% in tournaments. People love playing it at home for good reason. They're awesome at home. and now you throw in these injuries. I think they should be the chalkiest line of the night. Are you expecting kind of the same thing in all stakes?
Yeah,
right?
I think like probably 24% owned. That's my guess.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, and then so there's not just because there's not a ton of high quality options, right? It's sort of in that price range, and Boston's not in a good spot, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them that high. But there's some nice, intriguing, I would say if you're going to do that in GPPs, you might want to find, maybe dip down. You might not even have a choice because they're so expensive, but maybe dip down and find like a third line. What do you think about that? Or do you dip down into that very often? Or
yeah, I mean, it's a short enough slate where I think that's viable. Just looking
Anaheim,
at
Anaheim 3,
the Henrique line, yeah, I'm with that for sure.
Yeah, Chicago 3,
Chicago, yeah.
But you'll at least people don't like to dip down to those third lines, I think, a lot. So it's a possibly you might get a little bit of leverage there by
for sure. Your Winnipeg third line,
yeah, Winnipeg third line, yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Grubauer is, I think, one of the most fairly priced goalies. He's a decent home favorite, and I think he should see an okay amount of shot volume, and he's 7,700. So he's the guy that I like in this game as far as goalies go. Probably won't have much Copley. What do you say here, Nolan?
Yeah, I like that too. I think it was a couple of days ago when I was looking up the Capitals, and they generated a fair amount of shots, but they don't have a ton of high danger chances. That sounds wrong, but it might be right. So I always like to go. I always like to look for something like that, and then so that's obviously an option there. The Avs are favorites. Washington's 18th in the league in shots for. So I always like to target goaltenders who are favorites and facing a decent number of shots. And there aren't a lot of options like that tonight. So that's probably. Or sorry, did I say Washington? I keep I have it in my head that Winnipeg is playing Washington tonight, and I can't stop saying that. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think goalie is just tough tonight. I think it's really tough. There's no one that is super obviously underpriced. I mean, you can pretty much make a case for any goalie tonight at their price points. So what I'm doing in my crunch is just whoever fits is fine. I'm limiting goalie exposure to 15 or 20% at most, and just trying to get exposure to a lot of different goalies tonight and hope I get enough of the one that pops to make it work in tournaments.
I think that's a good strategy for sure.
St. Louis and Vegas. Jake Allen going up against Marc-Andre Fleury. 2.6 implied total for the Blues. 3 for the Vegas Golden Knights. This is one I don't really have much on, so maybe you can talk me onto something. What do you have here for this one, Nolan?
Not a lot either. There's not a lot of changes going on for either team. Peter Angelo for defenseman for St. Louis saw more ice time as well. It just seems to be a trend right now, even though he's not quarterbacking the power play 1. Don't really like St. Louis here. Don't mind Fleury, but not it's not a super exciting play. And then I think obviously both Vegas 1 and 2 are viable. Still 2/3 of each line on the power play with Colin Miller. Alex Took's been scoring lately, and Pacioretty's obviously been underachieving. I'm still looking I've just been putting in Vegas lately because I just feel like they're due for breakout. Mm-hmm. And they obviously I don't know, they tend to generate pretty high shot rate, right, for the Vegas 1. So
I think so, yeah.
So I kind of it's a decent floor stack, but I don't know. I'll have some Vegas for sure, and I'll have a little Marc-Andre Fleury as well.
Yeah, I think the Vegas top line, I think we've used our Cody Eakin card. He's 4,800. He's not free anymore, coming off a 2-goal game. Actually, I probably shouldn't talk bad about Eakin because I did the night he had the 2-goal game, and I got lucky because I didn't swap off of him like I said I was probably going to do.
Yeah.
So Eakin is the GOAT, whatever. I don't really like Vegas too much at all, besides Tuck or Pacioretty if you are doing a power play 1 stack. So I'd really want to get Smith, Carlson, Marchessault in there as my priority. And then you've got a good line on St. Louis with the O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Schwartz line, but they're going to see a decent amount of time against Carlson, Marchessault, Smith, and that's not a line I really want to target. We've got Braden Shen is supposed to return tonight, and he's playing wing with Bozak and Fabry. Are you seeing that at all?
I totally missed that.
I think it
No.
just happened right before the show started.
Okay, sweet. So where'd Steen? Is Steen off? Is he
Steen
injured?
is he? Yeah, I don't see him on here.
Huh.
I missed that part. I thought Steen was just moving down.
Yeah, maybe it's just
Day to day
Alex
with upper
Steens
body.
day to day. Yeah. Okay. So that's not a bad option there. I think for that second line. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not really much of an upgrade. Maybe a bit of an upgrade over Steen, but I actually kind of keep thinking this second line for the Blues is actually not bad. I don't know if this is the spot to use them in, but it's certainly something a team or a line to think about. Cheap, under-owned going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just don't like this O'Reilly Tarasenko Schwartz combo. I can't seem to get it right. They don't seem to correlate well when they score. Like, I don't know if that's just this year or it's just like variance, but they just don't seem to like. Yeah, they don't seem to be.
Even when they had Shen up there instead of O'Reilly, it seemed like it was the same thing. Like, they
Yeah.
were due for a breakout. They were cheap and all this stuff, and then they'd score and it'd be like Tarasenko from Parayko and Bouwmeester or something. And it's like,
What was
man,
it? And what was that the line last year? I'm trying to remember. Like, it was Schwartz, Shen. Was it Tarasenko or was it somebody else?
Well,
And
Steen was with them for a while, but it was mostly Tarasenko.
Yeah. And they were killing it for like 2 months at the beginning of last season, but we haven't seen that production from them so far. So I'll be off them tonight.
Okay.
I think.
That is fair. Anything else we should mention from forwards here?
I would say like one off if you need maybe David Perron. Like I always, if you're just like filling out your roster and you need a guy who's kind of going to differentiate. He's four Gs and he can always pop in a goal or two, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean he already has a hat trick this year, right? So.
Yeah.
Defensemen on both sides are kind of lackluster in my eyes. I mean, Pietrangelo, very good real life player, but he is on the second power play. He's not with O'Reilly and Tarasenko, so that's a little bit tilting. And I'm not a Vince Dunn guy. I mean, at 4,200, you could probably talk me into him, but I'd rather go elsewhere with my $4,200 tonight. And then Vegas is just like they're constantly mixing around their power plays. Miller and Theodore always swapping. I usually lean Miller's way, but I don't know. Do you have any strong takes here?
Yeah, I would probably say Miller's the most stackable, but Vegas just, you're right, like they just alternate everyone. They kind of all have it, like sort of their top four has pretty even playing time. And then I think I mentioned as well, like Dunn's not getting a lot of ice time with St. Louis, one outside of the power play. So it's definitely not a very well correlated D stack.
Yep.
Sure.
Big pricing discrepancy on DraftKings from Jake Allen to Marc-Andre Fleury. I actually don't hate Allen as a cheap one-off option. I think I prefer him over Calvin Peterson just because, like Allen, when he's got his head on straight, he is capable of huge performances. I think he's going to see some decent shot volume here. And, he's $7K. And then Fleury, just super, super expensive. Too rich for my blood, I think. What do you say here for goalie?
Actually, I hadn't been thinking about Jake Allen, but I like that play. Vegas is near the top of the league in shots, right? I think they're like 34, 35 shots a game. So absolutely. I mean, never like to go against Vegas when they're at home, but they haven't been the same team this year, so it's entirely possible that they're sort of suffering a little bit of regression as a team.
I think they're being a little bit unlucky. They're getting unlucky.
Yeah.
They had a positive regression game against the Ducks, but in my eyes, the Blues are a much, much better team than the Ducks, even though they're not awesome defensively. They're quite a big upgrade. So
I agree. Yeah. Vegas 7th in high danger chances for this year. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Last game of the night. Then maybe we can build some lineups here. Get some looks at some things. We've got Toronto at Anaheim. 2.9 implied total for the Leafs. 2.7 for the Ducks. Garrett Sparks expected to go for the Maple Leafs, and then presumably John Gibson for the Ducks. The Ducks are a team that I've been attacking pretty much all season, and it's not stopping here. What do you have here, Nolan?
I'm just seeing, like, I saw Sean Tierney's just to kind of post some graphs today about how, like, their numbers, the Ducks are starting to regress, I think, a little bit. So they're like they're returning. They've got Cassé back, they've got Kessler back, they've got Getzlaf back. Obviously, they're without Fowler, but they're trending up. Would you say that from like the rock bottom that they were for the first 3 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
So like when you look at all their underlying stats, they're awful, but they're probably
Mhm.
not that awful. This isn't like the slam dunk play that I would have said it was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, Maple Leafs on back-to-backs probably going to go. Oh, I don't know. You think they'll go overlooked tonight? Like I would assume that they are, but
Maple Leafs.
yeah,
Yeah, I think they will.
yeah. So that's a pretty strong GPP play for sure. Toronto 1 and Toronto 2 both getting about. I think Toronto 2 had a 29% ice time clip their last game out, so they've been getting a lot of ice time. Both those lines, obviously, they both correlate well. So I got no problem going with either one of them tonight.
Yeah, it's the Tavares line for me. It's
Yeah.
Tavares Marner mostly, but like
What?
even Hyman
Just
hasn't been terrible. I
yeah.
actually have him projected as an okay value, so I'd probably have him in the BC range, like where Osmo has him as a C value. I think
Yeah.
that's a fair grade for him. And he's a guy that I hate playing, but
Who's that? Hyman?
Hyman, yeah, just I don't know, he's kind of a plug.
Yeah.
Not he's not the worst though. Like I follow last year someone that just doesn't do anything, but he's with two guys that you really want to play. So I'm not jumping on the Zach Hyman train, but I'm not like Xing him out of my lineups, I guess, tonight, which is a big step for me. And then
You're growing.
yeah, exactly. So the Ducks have been kind of doing some weird stuff with line matching. It's
Yeah.
mostly top six against top six, but the Kessler line has been some games seeing extended time against the opposing top line at home. And if they're going to do that here, then I love Tavares Marner even more. We're not going to know exactly. They'll see time against Kessler and Getzlaf, but I like their chances against both those lines, actually. Getzlaf and Raquel have been pretty poor defensively this season. No Cam
Yeah.
Fowler doesn't help.
Lindholm has been and Montour have been pretty terrible too, right?
Yeah.
This could be a kind of a high event game, actually. It's all the only thing that continually scares me against stacking against the Ducks is whether or not Gibson's going to stand on his head. And he's been the best goalie in the NHL this year, but he's also regressing a little bit to the mean too. So it's kind of like you're seing this sort of weird thing going on in
yeah,
Anaheim.
you can only have so many high danger saves, right? Before you just
Yeah, exactly.
like, man. But like every time I watch the Ducks too, and I try to just stick to the data and not make too many assumptions based on what I watch. But every time I watch them, they're just constantly leaving him out to dry or committing dumb penalties, and
Yeah.
they're just a team I want to attack. The data's been terrible. They've gotten a little bit better, as you mentioned, the last couple of weeks, but still a team I think you can attack, especially with really, really awesome players like Tavares and Marner.
Yeah. I will 100% trust your judgment on that one. It sounds like a pretty smart GPP play too. If you're going to get them at like under 10% ownership as well.
Getzlaf, Raquel, Aberg, or the Kasha line with Henrique and Richie, I think are the two that I have some interest in. I think it's going to be Anaheim 3 for me for the most part, though. What do you say?
Anaheim 3 is definitely viable. I think Henrique is on the power play 1. So yeah, I'm 100% in on them. I don't hate Anaheim 2 either. They're also pretty cheap as well, just as like a sort of, I don't know, cheap one-off. I won't be putting them in a lot of lineups, but they both have pretty good grades from Osmo. Well, Osmo really likes Anaheim 3, I guess, but
They're just so cheap, right? And they all get power play time. We have data on this line as well. Going back to last season, they're super high event. They get sheltered at home, so they've got everything you look for. And Kasha has also attempted, I think, 10 shots per game in his first 2 games. I think he had 7 shots on goal last time out. So
he's
like
definitely something to keep your eye on. Yep. Like I think he's destined for big things for sure. Do you like Montour in this game with the Fowler?
Montour, you say?
Yeah.
I do. Power play 1. So if you're going to Getzlaf in that top line, then yeah, I think he's a pretty logical guy. Probably going to play some at even strength with them. And then, of course, on the power play. And then Lindholm, I think, is a really, really good floor play. At 4,900, Steve Homercles, who's always on, says that the Leafs are like the worst team or one of the worst teams at defending point shots. So anyone that's willing to shoot against the Leafs and is a defenseman, it probably gets a bump. And he was right last game. He in the Slack chat, he said something about like he listed the points, and it was Burns last time out. Burns 7.5, Carlson 6.5, Ryan 6, Vlasic 5. That's on DK.
Wow, that's nuts.
So they just give it up to all the defensemen.
And also another tick in Lindholm's favor, even though he's a little bit pricier. He's the Anaheim Power Play 2 has been playing like almost even for the last few games. So you're kind of getting like a little bit of a boost there. It's not like a one-off, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. So you can even go with like Kosh at Lindholm. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Good
values there, just 9K to stack those two. And if you're going with 3-3-2 or like a 5-man power play and you need a cheap 2-man, then I think that's a pretty solid option. Anything else we should mention in this one? Leafs defenseman or that Kadri line we didn't really talk about much.
I missed that game last night, but it looked yeah. So I don't have a lot else to say about the Leafs. Yeah, okay. I think it looks like the ice time's pretty evenly spread out between defense and forwards. So you're probably just better off stacking Riley if you're going with either one of those top two lines. But yeah,
I would agree. Right, goalies at 7,300 for Sparks. I think he's a correlation play, and that's pretty much the extent of it. And then Gibson probably going to see a ton of shots again. Team on a road back-to-back. I mean, you can make the case for Gibson pretty easily here. He's incredible. As long as his team limits the high danger chances somewhat here, but I'm probably going to steer clear of Gibson for the most part.
I'll put Gibson in a couple GPPs for sure, but definitely not going to be a core play or a cash play.
Thoughts on the Toronto 2 stack? They're fine for me. I mean, they're not a stack I'm avoiding, but definitely not a priority play or anything like that for me.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more minutes. Probably what we usually do is just mess around with the lineup builder, make something, usually point out the chalk spot or something and see what we can fit in with it. I don't know. Colorado 1 build is kind of boring to me, so a little bit cheaper.
What do you want to do? Toronto, Dallas,
I think you
Chicago?
go with Dallas. They're a little cheaper as a whole.
Dallas 1.
Yeah, so you're going to be on a little bit of a delay because I didn't share my screen with you. But
that's all good.
Let's see. Just off the top of your head, do you know any lines that could fit with them? I think that Kadri line might be able to.
Let's take a look here. So we got those three, and then are you going with a 4-man stack there and putting Heiskanen in, or?
Oh yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah. So right now, as you'll see in a second, I've got Kadri, Marleau, Kapanen, that second line for Toronto, and then you can go back and get Heiskanen. Now you got 5,900 left for a defenseman and a goalie. I'm gonna go a little bit cheaper. You could go with like a Montour as your defenseman. Now you got 8,300. So anyone besides Marc-Andre Fleury, which is pretty nice luxury to have. You can go with Crawford, Grubauer, any of these guys. Those are the couple that I would probably consider there. Oh, Brossoit.
Yes. So you're looking at a range in, like, if you're going for a fairly cheap goal, you're looking at a 15,000 left over, something along those lines, or an average of like 5,000 per player.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Which is
Vegas 1 with Dallas 1. Is that right?
Vegas 1. Vegas 1's 16,900 and Dallas 1. Are we talking DraftKings here?
Yeah.
So that's 20,000. 35,000. That seems doable.
Let's see. So we'd have to get real punty with it. Let's see. 20. Is there a 25? Oh, we can go with my boy Roman Polak or Derek Forbort, or Zaitsev is also 2,600. You can tell I've been looking around for these $2,600 defensemen.
You seem to be the $2,600 defenseman whisperer.
Yeah. I've been hand building, so
I swear every time I go below like 3 G's on D, I can't get it right. So I try so hard not to.
I mean, you're just looking for like 3 block shots, put a couple on net or something, and
it's true.
If you get a goal or something, just count your blessings, right?
Yeah. What about one of these? What about one of these defensemen on Boston that might see a little bit of, like, Steve Kampfer? Jacob Zaboral, $2,500.
I don't know anything about him.
Well, first round pick in 2015 when Boston botched that draft and could have had like Barzell and like a number of other players with their 3 picks in a row and end up with like DeBrusque and him. But he's like probably a bit of a two-way defenseman, I guess. I think he's got like here's the stats right here. He's got 5 points in 13 AHL games this year, so they're probably going to shelter him. I would guess he's probably not going to get more than 12 minutes. But NHL debut, $2,500, former first-round pick. There are worse punts, I think.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got an NBA show after this, so we probably got to get out of here right now. Nolan, thanks for joining. You got any last words for the people? Any last words of advice?
Dallas won. Let's do it. Tonight's the night.
All right, Dallas won. See you guys at the top.
Thanks for having me.